If you're over 60, this one simple nighttime mistake could silently raise your risk of a stroke while you sleep. No warning, no pain, just one moment you're fine, and the next you wake up slurring your words, unable to lift your arm, or confused about where you are. I've seen it happen in my own patients, not because they were smokers, not because they had terrible diets, and not even because they weren't active, but because of quiet, everyday habits that seemed harmless until it was too late. As a brain doctor, I'm shocked how many older adults go to bed every night doing these exact same things. Small mistakes that over time form blood clots, disrupt brain circulation, or spike blood pressure during the most vulnerable hours of the night. Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 common nighttime habits that could be putting your brain in danger, along with one powerful change you can make starting tonight to protect yourself. If you or someone you love is over 60, don't ignore this. These aren't rare cases. These are real stories. And the scariest part, most people don't realize the damage until it's already done. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Going to bed dehydrated. It sounds harmless. You skip that glass of water before bed because you don't want to wake up during the night. You think you're being smart, protecting your sleep. But what if I told you that simple decision could be the one thing standing between you and a stroke? As a brain doctor, I've seen this happen more times than I can count. Let me tell you about one patient, Mr. Harold Decker, age 72, a retired postal worker from Michigan. A kind man, proud, careful with his health. He walked every day, watched his sodium, took his medications on time. But he also had a habit, right? No fluids after 6 p.m. I don't want to be up all night running to the bathroom, he told me. Then one morning, he didn't get out of bed. His wife found him confused, unable to lift his left arm. His words were jumbled. A stroke, silent, overnight. When we ran his labs, we found his blood was thick, dehydrated. Thick blood flows slower, and slower blood is more likely to form clots. Combine that with age-related changes in circulation, a little stiffness in the arteries, and suddenly that innocent nighttime habit turns deadly. You see, as we age, our body loses its ability to sense thirst clearly. By the time you feel thirsty, you may already be mildly dehydrated. Overnight, as we sleep, we naturally lose fluids through breathing and sweat. For a younger adult, that's not a big deal. But for someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, that fluid loss can make blood sluggish, sticky. And sticky blood forms clots, the kind that can lodge in the brain and steal your speech, your strength, or your memory in an instant. Worse, dehydration at night can trigger blood pressure to spike as your body struggles to keep blood moving. That pressure, combined with thick blood, can set the stage for a cerebral infarction, a stroke caused by blocked blood flow. And it happens while you're sleeping. No warning, no pain. You just wake up and everything has changed. Harold survived, but he no longer drives. He walks with a limp. His wife now helps him bathe and dress. If I had just known water could have made the difference, he told me with tears in his eyes. So let me be very clear. Going to bed even mildly dehydrated can be dangerous for your brain. You don't need to drink a gallon, just a small glass, 4 to 6 ounces, about 30 minutes before bed, enough to keep your blood flowing smoothly while you rest. It's a small act, but it could mean waking up to a normal day instead of a life forever changed. But Harold's story isn't the only one that keeps me up at night. There's another common mistake, one that happens right in your favorite chair, and most people don't even know it's hurting them. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, Please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Falling asleep in a recliner or couch. It's a habit that seems comforting, even cozy, nodding off in your favorite recliner after watching TV, drifting into sleep while reading a good book, or just closing your eyes for a few minutes after dinner. Many older adults do it. It's part of the nightly routine. But what if I told you that sleeping in a recliner night after night could quietly set the stage for a stroke? Let me introduce you to Mrs. Evelyn Marks, 75, a retired music teacher from Indiana. Every night after dinner, she would curl up in her old soft recliner with a blanket and drift off to sleep while watching the news. My husband passed 5 years ago, she told me, and I just feel more comfortable in my chair than the big empty bed. Evelyn didn't think she was doing anything wrong, but one morning she woke up unable to speak. Her mouth was drooping. Her arm hung by her side. It was a stroke, sudden, severe, and it didn't come out of nowhere. You see, when we fall asleep in a recliner or slouched on a couch, our neck often falls forward or to the side. That position may not seem dangerous, but for older adults, it can reduce blood flow to the brain, especially if there's already narrowing in the neck arteries, a condition called carotid artery stenosis, which becomes more common with age. When the head stays in an awkward angle for hours, it compresses those already vulnerable vessels. And just like a kinked garden hose, blood slows down or pools. And what happens when blood sits still? It forms clots. Clots that can break loose and travel straight to the brain, often during the early morning hours when blood pressure rises. Add to this the fact that sleep in a chair is often fragmented. Poor quality sleep increases inflammation, worsens blood sugar levels, and disturbs natural blood pressure rhythms. It's a dangerous combination for the aging brain. Evelyn survived, but not without consequences. She now has weakness in her right hand and struggles to play piano, the instrument she taught for over 40 years. I thought I was doing something harmless, she whispered during a follow-up visit. I didn't know it could take my music away. That's the cruel part of these silent habits. They seem so ordinary, even comforting, but they hide risks that can change your life in a heartbeat. So if you're someone who frequently falls asleep in your chair, consider this your wake-up call. Move to bed. Support your head and neck. Give your brain the oxygen and circulation it needs to protect you through the night. And while a recliner might feel like your safe place, there's something else you might be doing that's even riskier, especially if you take blood pressure medication. Most people never think about this, but it's a mistake that could drop your pressure too low and steal your brain's lifeline while you sleep. 3. Taking blood pressure medication late at night without guidance. It's a routine most people don't even question. You take your blood pressure pill at night, right before bed, just like the bottle says. Maybe your doctor mentioned it once, or maybe you just assumed nighttime was the right time. But for many older adults, especially those over 65, this one routine could quietly set off a dangerous chain reaction while you sleep, one that could end in a stroke. Let me tell you about Mr. George Lambert in 78, a retired firefighter from Pennsylvania. Strong, disciplined, proud of how well he managed his health. Every night at 10 o'clock p.m., he lined up his medications on the kitchen counter. One for cholesterol, one for his heart, and one little pill for his blood pressure, a beta blocker prescribed years ago. He believed he was doing everything right. But one morning, George didn't wake up as usual. When his daughter called to check on him, he answered the phone in a slurred voice, disoriented, weak on one side. When paramedics arrived, his blood pressure was dangerously low and he was in the middle of a stroke. What happened to George happens to more people than you'd think. Here's the truth. Blood pressure naturally drops at night as your body rests. It's part of the circadian rhythm, a healthy dip that gives your heart a break. But for seniors, this drop can become dangerous when combined with certain blood pressure medications, especially if taken too late or in full doses at bedtime. Too much of a dip, known as nocturnal hypotension, can starve your brain of oxygen. If blood pressure falls below a critical threshold, it reduces cerebral perfusion, the blood flow your brain needs to function and survive. This state doesn't always come with warning signs. You might feel fine as you fall asleep, but behind the scenes, low pressure slows circulation, and when blood flow slows, clots can form. Clots that lodge in narrow vessels and rob your brain of life in an instant. For George, the stroke damaged his short-term memory. He now struggles with names and dates. "I thought I was being responsible," he told me, eyes welling with frustration. "I followed the rules. No one told me I was putting my brain at risk." That's why it's so important to review medication timing with your doctor, especially as you age. Some people may benefit from morning doses or a split dose schedule to avoid that nighttime drop. Others may need adjustments depending on kidney function or how well they sleep. Never assume timing is one size fits all. What works at 50 could be dangerous at 75. In speaking of nighttime dangers, you might be surprised to learn that even something as simple as room temperature could quietly be pushing your blood pressure in the wrong direction. Cold air might feel refreshing, but the effects on your brain could be deadly. 4. Sleeping in a cold room without proper cover. You might think you're doing the right thing by keeping your room cool at night. After all, every magazine and wellness blog says sleeping in a cool environment helps you rest better. And that's true, but only up to a point. What most older adults don't realize is that sleeping in a room that's too cold, especially without proper bedding, can quietly raise your risk of stroke. It sounds harmless, until it isn't. Let me tell you about Mrs. June Callahan, 80, a widowed grandmother from upstate New York. She was tough, a Depression-era child who never liked wasting heat. Every night, even in winter, she turned the thermostat down to 60 degrees and bundled up just enough. One morning, her son found her sitting on the edge of her bed, confused, shivering, and unable to move the right side of her body. It was a stroke, and it didn't come out of nowhere. Here's what happened. Cold temperatures cause vasoconstriction, a process where blood vessels narrow to preserve core body heat. For younger people, the body adjusts easily, but for older adults, especially those with underlying cardiovascular issues, this narrowing can cause blood pressure to spike, and worse, it slows circulation. When blood moves more slowly and vessels are tight, it becomes more prone to clotting, and clots that form overnight, when you're motionless and unaware, can easily travel to the brain before morning. We also must consider another issue. Cold interferes with sleep quality. You might fall asleep, but you don't stay in deep restorative sleep when your body is cold. You may toss, turn, or wake more frequently, which increases stress hormones like cortisol, and elevated cortisol can also raise blood pressure and increase clot risk. June had no idea her cozy frugality was hurting her. "I just didn't want to waste energy," she told me, now recovering in a rehab facility, her speech slightly slurred, her right hand too weak to write. She used to crochet for her grandchildren every week. Now, her fingers struggled to hold a pen. It didn't have to be this way. For seniors, the ideal room temperature at night should stay between 65 to 68 degrees Celsius, with proper layers of breathable bedding, cotton or wool blankets, and socks if needed. Cold extremities are a warning sign that your body is working too hard to stay warm. So before you lower that thermostat another degree tonight, Think about what you're risking. Saving a few dollars on heat isn't worth losing your speech, your balance, or your independence. And speaking of nightly routines, there's one more habit I see far too often. It doesn't involve temperature or pills. It has to do with what we feed our minds before we sleep, and the damage it causes might surprise you even more. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number one below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 5. Watching stressful news or TV before bed. At the end of a long day, it feels harmless, even normal, to sit back, flip on the TV, and catch up on the evening news or your favorite crime drama. For many older adults, it's part of the nightly routine. But what if I told you that what you choose to watch before bed could quietly push your brain toward a stroke? That the emotional stress from TV, even without you realizing it, can disrupt your brain's chemistry and your heart's rhythm in ways that form clots and steal your health overnight? That's exactly what happened to my patient, Mr. Donald Reed, 7, a retired police officer from Ohio. For years, Don had a pattern: finish dinner, pour a glass of iced tea, and settle in for the late news and a few episodes of gritty crime shows. "It keeps my mind sharp," he used to say, but what it was really doing was something far more dangerous. One morning, Don woke up with slurred speech and numbness down the left side of his face. A mild stroke, the doctor said, but when we dug deeper, the picture became clearer. Don didn't have high cholesterol, he didn't smoke, but every night he went to sleep with elevated cortisol levels, the hormone your body releases during stress, the kind of stress you don't always feel, but your body responds to anyway. Violence, conflict, anxiety-inducing stories, these activate your sympathetic nervous system, keeping your body in fight or flight mode. Your blood pressure rises, your heart rate increases, and most dangerously of all, your blood becomes thicker, more prone to clotting. Stress also disrupts your sleep cycles, preventing your brain from entering deep, healing rest. This combination is a perfect storm for stroke. Don's brain didn't get the peace it needed at night, and over time, the chronic stress and poor sleep made his blood stickier. When you combine that with age-related arterial stiffness and reduced circulation, it's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. Sticky blood forms clots. Clots cut off oxygen, and oxygen-starved brain cells die. He survived, but he now struggles to read, something he once loved. "I thought TV was just background noise," he said, staring at the floor. "I didn't know it was rewiring my brain." If you're over 60, the content you consume matters. What you feed your brain, especially before sleep, shapes your blood chemistry, your heart rhythms, and your brain's vulnerability. Choose calm. Choose peace. Choose sleep, not stimulation. And if you're wondering what you should be doing at night to protect your brain, beyond avoiding the risky habits, there's one shift that can make a world of difference. It starts with your plate, not your pill bottle. Let me show you why food might be the most powerful medicine of all. 6. So what should you do instead? By now you've heard about the quiet habits that can push your brain toward danger while you sleep, from dehydration to poor sleep posture, wrong medication timing, cold rooms, and emotional stress. But here's the truth. Avoiding those risks is only half the battle. If you want to truly protect your brain, you need to give it what it recognizes, trusts, and thrives on: real food, real rest, and rhythm. Not pills, not powders, not promises in a bottle. I'll never forget one of my patients, Mrs. Arlene Moore, 74, a retired school secretary from Missouri. She came to see me after a mild stroke had taken her ability to write smoothly. She didn't smoke, she wasn't overweight, and she exercised a few times a week. But when we sat down and looked through her daily routine, I saw a pattern that I've now come to recognize all too well. Her counter was lined with supplements, one for memory, one for heart health, one for circulation, and a multivitamin on top of that. She barely ate breakfast. Lunch was a protein bar or some crackers. Dinner was usually frozen or skipped. I take all my vitamins, doctor, she told me, but I still feel foggy and tired. And now this stroke, I don't understand. What Arlene didn't realize, and in what most seniors aren't told, is that your body doesn't process supplements the same way it processes food, especially as you age. Your liver works slower, your kidneys are more sensitive, your digestion changes, and large doses of isolated vitamins can create imbalances, interfere with medications, or even cause clot formation if they spike calcium, alter blood viscosity, or disturb blood pressure. We changed everything. I asked Arlene to stop all her supplements for 2 weeks. Instead, she ate real meals, simple, balanced, and nutrient-rich. Her breakfast became a boiled egg, a slice of whole grain toast, half an avocado, and some blueberries. Lunch included leafy greens, a handful of almonds, and grilled chicken. Dinners were light but whole: salmon, sweet potato, steamed broccoli. She drank water throughout the day and walked every evening, just around the block. Within a month, her energy returned, her blood pressure stabilized, her sleep improved, and during our last visit, she said something I'll never forget. I didn't know food could be medicine. I thought I needed pills to stay alive. Let me be clear. You don't need megadoses of vitamins to protect your brain. You need consistency, hydration, sleep, and real nourishment. That's how you reduce clot risk, stabilize blood flow, and keep your brain sharp for years to come. But we're not done yet, because even if you change everything about your nights, your days still matter just as much. So in the final part, let me show you the most powerful science-backed steps you can take every morning to protect your brain before a stroke has the chance to steal your future. Final wake-up call: the stroke you don't see coming. We often think that danger comes with warning signs: chest pain, dizziness, or a fall. But for the brain, the most devastating threats often arrive in silence. A stroke doesn't always knock at the door. Sometimes it comes quietly, while you sleep, reshaping the rest of your life in a single moment. What's most tragic is that many of these strokes are preventable. They don't come from rare conditions or impossible to detect problems. They come from everyday habits: the glass of water you didn't drink, the recliner you fell asleep in, the medication you took too late, the chilly room you didn't think twice about, or the stressful news you watched before bed. Simple things, familiar routines. That's what makes them so dangerous. But here's the truth that should empower you. Your habits are your strongest medicine, or your quietest poison. And the choices you make tonight could determine whether you wake up tomorrow the same person or someone forever changed. You don't need to live in fear. You need to live with awareness. At this stage in life, your body doesn't bounce back like it once did. It deserves respect, routine, and real care, not guesswork. That means drinking water even when you're not thirsty. It means choosing your bed over your recliner, checking with your doctor about your medication schedule, warming your room just enough to keep blood flowing, and calming your nervous system instead of overstimulating your mind before sleep. And more than anything, it means feeding your brain with what it truly understands: oxygen, movement, rest, and real food. Not flashy pills, not miracle bottles from the internet. The best defense against a silent stroke isn't something you can order overnight. It's the small, consistent choices you make day after day, night after night. I've sat with too many patients in the aftermath. Once vibrant, independent people now struggling to walk, to speak, to remember the names of their grandchildren. And every time, I wonder, what if someone had told them the truth sooner? So now I'm telling you. Tonight, as you prepare for bed, think of your brain not as something you ignore until it breaks, but as a fragile, powerful part of you that depends on your care. You have more control than you realize, and it's never too late to take that control back. Because the stroke you don't see coming is the one that changes everything. And the habit you change tonight could be the one that saves your life. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.